Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional from Rhode Island, USA, Janice Dru Bennett. Janice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Janice is the founder of Inkwhy. She's also a social impact advocate. So, Janice, before we get into discussions on Inkwhy and branding, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Absolutely. And I would say my journey from a career and work perspective started out right after college. I went into financial services, working for Merrill Lynch, and was there when the markets crashed and it got bought by Bank of America. Wow. So seeing brands get destroyed was the first experience out of my initial work experience. But part of the reason I went into financial services was because I wanted to make a difference in the world. And as a student, I kind of did my research and thought, I need to have money if I want to be philanthropic. I need to have resources. And as I was working in financial services, I realized that those who had the accumulated wealth had done so either through investing or through inheritance or through a corporate career and or a business that they started. And so while I was in my corporate career, I also started a business in 2011, which was Inkwhy.
Wow, that's quite amazing. You also say that your vision is to help make the world a better place by advocating for the UN SDGs. Tell me a little bit more about this and how does this link into Inkwhy?
Yes. And so I first learned about the UN SDGs, I think around 2013, 2014, and really they spoke to me in terms of we've come together as a global population, global leaders, and identified what we really need to do to make this world a better place. And so I kind of parked them and started, seeing more and more initiatives around UN Sustainable Development Goals. And it wasn't until 2020 when COVID hit that I really kind of wanted to do a reset, because I talked about starting out in financial services. I've actually had a career in marketing in multiple industries. So I've had experience in B2B software, in legal services, in higher education. And so as I've gone through these different industries, I've realized, every company has a different mission. And sometimes that mission is aligned to one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Correct.
And in 2021, I was resetting my own business as well as my career. And I built a course called the Career Shift Lift System and the Social Shift Lift System, thinking about how do you change your career and improve and get promoted and change industries, as well as how do you change social impact personally in your communities and beyond. And so I started an initiative under the Inkwhy brand called Sustainable Tracker. And then I also identified that partnerships is an area that I really wanted to focus on, because that's the 17th UN Sustainable Development Goal. And to achieve gender equality and to achieve no poverty and to achieve climate change, all of these have to work together. And so realizing that my work with Inkwhy had been built on partnerships, because it's impossible to do things alone. And whether it's bringing on people to help you grow the business or it's partnering with other organizations, that's how I've kept Inkwhy sustainable and alive as a business for over 10 years.
How interesting.
And so really thinking about my full-time work too, I chose a company that helps people build resilience skills. That's when I built my career shift program in 2021. I ended up shifting my own full-time work to focus on partnerships with a resilience company. So all the steps I personally take are toward individually, how can I help with the UN Sustainable Development Goals? And globally, how can I track and understand what's happening through partnerships?
That's so incredible. The predecessor of the SDGs were the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, which the UN started, and Gavi was founded because of the fourth and the fifth MDGs. But like all people, young people like you are talking about the SDGs all over the world. I never saw the same kind of passion for the MDGs. But thank you for all the work you're doing for the SDGs. Fantastic. So Janice, let's now move to Inkwhy. Tell me about the venture, but before that, it's an unusual name. Tell me about the background for selecting this name.
Yeah, and the idea for Inkwhy started when the markets were crashing. People were out of jobs. It was really difficult for people to monetize, and be able to generate their own income because
Yeah.
there were so many massive layoffs. And so the idea originally came from, let's create a platform that allows people to share their knowledge while monetizing it in a way like Quora. You can ask questions and answer questions, but it doesn't pay people out. And as a blog, you can create your own content and monetize advertising and get dollars from that, but you're an individual. So the whole idea is, how do we kind of bring those worlds together, be able to have a platform that allows people to search for a solution. And when your solution, the aggregate information tells you, this is the best stroller for triplets. That's the example, and so there's all these people are rating the stroller or talking about using it for running or whatever. And then as the inventory depletes, then that particular product no longer shows up as an advertisement on the page. So the whole idea was to have a way to really quickly find a solution, select the top one if it's available, and then if not, you kind of keep going through the inventory until it's gone. We never actually built that platform, but the idea. But the website is still existent. Inkwhy, we came up with, as we were thinking of the word inquire, and INKWHY, we came up with the acronym, I need knowledge. What have you? And it's inkwhy.com. And instead of building a platform of exchanging knowledge, as we started going to events and meeting other business owners, we realized there's needs for marketing and social media and other services that we could provide. And so that's where the company kind of pivoted to be able to provide sales and marketing services as given my expertise, bring in other experts to help deliver other services, and start recommending other companies and other products and services as a way to generate affiliate revenue or referral dollars, and really build a kind of a network of businesses that I'd be recommending. A little bit more manual than a platform would be, but it's, again, kept the company alive.
Fascinating, and I love the background, the name Inkwhy. It reminds me of this company that was, and you were much younger than me, but I'm talking 30 years ago or 20 years ago, someone had started a company called ICQ. And it was basically a networking site, which was I seek you. And it was I, C, and Q, the three alphabets, which
I love that.
Isn't it? So when you told me about Inkwhy, that was fascinating. But coming back to you, Janice, what is the support you give to startups and startup founders when it comes to branding?
Yeah, and I've offered various services. So there's very tactical, like if you need a set of marketing collateral, I've done that for startups and growing companies. If you need a marketing plan, I've put something together. And if you need social media support, I've also done that. Now, again, as a full-time employee myself, I have limited time to deliver on some of these. So it's finding that network of consultants and partners who can also help deliver. So the other way I've helped startups and growing companies and nonprofits as well is have a conversation, understand what your needs are, and match you with the right resource or people that you can vet yourself. But I've already, similar to what the whole basis of Inkwhy is, that the knowledge is all in my head.
Well said.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the work you've done, what, in your opinion, goes into building a successful brand?
It's interesting. I was thinking about the definition of brand, and being in marketing, I've worked with multiple consultants who are brand consultants. One of them said a brand is a place that is a spot that is in somebody's brain. So it could be a different spot in everyone's brain, but you may want it to be that same spot. So to be able to ingrain that brand into other people's heads, it involves more than just colors and fonts. It's about a feeling. It's about really evoking what your mission and your values are in a way that gets people to understand and advocate for your brand. So it goes really deep underneath yes, you might see the Nike symbol and immediately think of Nike, or see the Apple and think of Apple, but there's more. There's the creativity behind the brand. There's the energy, or so thinking about what the words are that you really want your brand to evoke. When somebody sees and or hears or reads what your brand is, it's a lot of work to create that package and to continue to evolve it as well.
Correct. And, Janice, brands, in my years of marketing and branding, are what I've often said, living beings. They're like children. They need constant nurturing. What, in your opinion, is the reason that some brands stay relevant for 100 years and some die despite any amount of money being put into them?
I think when brands die, it's often when they stop addressing their market. So that's, you create a brand and you're addressing a current market. And like you said, your brand has to evolve. If your child stays a 3-year-old their whole life, then you're going to have to take care of it your whole life. But if you allow it to evolve and address what the changing circumstances are around you, like the radio or radio advertising versus newspaper advertising versus digital, as you see trends change and where people are spending their time, if you keep spending your time in an ocean that's drying up, you're going to end up dying because that you won't have any water left. So you have to move with the times. You can stay your brand, but you can't stay where you are your whole life. Otherwise you will die.
Correct. Well said. Great response. And yet, when I look at it, I'm from the baby boomers age. When we used to talk branding, there were full-page newspaper advertisements, billboards, long cinema clips that would go in cinema halls and so on. Now everything is digital. My question, and you know a lot about the digital world, what do brands need to do to succeed in the digital world?
I think one is not being distracted, because I think there's so many different options. And so really being able to figure out where in the digital world you want to be and not spread yourself too thin, because I do think that is a challenge when you start to try to be everywhere. Unless you have huge budgets and you're already everywhere, like Coca-Cola, then yes, you can keep expanding your net and going everywhere. But for startups in particular, it's really looking at, are your clients lawyers? Then you may want to look on Avo or figure out exactly where the lawyers are, so that you're not overextending your own resources to try to go everywhere with digital.
Interesting. And then there's the other aspect of digital, which is the communication. And communication seems to be getting, from 30 seconds, which people used to say was difficult for my age group, which was elevator pitch, to now 10 seconds. How do you think brands are adjusting to this very, very short communication of their message?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're starting to create shorter snippets, little videos, like being on TikTok or LinkedIn Shorts or what YouTube Shorts, whatever the platforms are allowing for shorter attention captures. I do think also, again, there's that level, and I'm older than the youngest generation right now, so sometimes I do think the shiny object syndrome is definitely impacting our audience. But I do think there is that level of like, how do you capture attention for a longer period of time with a 30-minute podcast or with a all-day conference that is captivating people and being able to really go deeper than just a quick snap. So I think brands need to find the balance of, yes, I'm creating these little images, words that are catchy and things that will capture the attention initially, but how do I deepen the relationship in ways that will stand out?
Well said. And then there is the other aspect, Janice, of the influencers. There's a whole new breed of influencers and micro influencers who seem to have taken the space of the big cinema stars or sports stars. What, in your view, are the influencers doing to brands?
I think one, they could be also distracting the brands. So, but two, they could be also offering brands a new channel. So I think if you only go after the big names and celebrities, you may be missing a whole segment of people that aren't really looking at those big names. But if you are able to really assess who is influencing your audience and group together, you could create a lot more impact. So I think really thinking about your strategy, doing your research as a brand, and understanding who is going to help your brand get more visibility, get more sales, get more of the results that you're looking to get as a company. I think those are all the factors as you're looking at influencers like me, even with only 20 some thousand LinkedIn followers. I've created some partnerships where, because my audience is small business owners, or I have very segmented event planners as an example in my network, I can reach out with an event opportunity or event solution as an example.
Very interesting. And since you do so much work with startups and startup founders, what are some of the challenges these new businesses face when it comes to building or developing their brands?
Yeah, and I think it's breaking through the noise. So there are so many companies and so many messages out there. So when you're a new name and new face, it's sometimes hard to get noticed as a new startup, a new brand. I think the power of collection or collectivity is part of my drive toward partnerships. Is when you put startups together under an umbrella, and there's startup collectives or ways to kind of get visibility with your group. I think that can help with some of that visibility challenge that startups may be facing.
Interesting. And the other aspect of branding is technology. With so many different things happening in the world of technology, from the metaverse to artificial intelligence to virtual reality. What, in your view, is this technology doing to branding?
Again, I think it could be a distraction, right? I actually worked for an augmented reality company for a little bit as well. And I think it can be a shiny object, and it can also be an opportunity. So depending on what you're trying to do, augmented reality could be, or virtual reality, creating, a metaverse platform. Those can all be fun and exciting, but if they're not driving you toward your goals, then I think, again, really dig into what your goals are and how you can achieve them with or without new shiny objects. So
Okay.
and if the world is moving toward more augmented reality, more virtual reality, you want to be prepared for being being able to be part of that wave. At the same time, the wave could crash, and you don't want to go down with the crash either.
And yet, Janice, the big brands like a Nike, for example, is spending big money on buying real estate in the metaverse. And I often wonder, what are they going to do with all this?
And it's interesting because I think of my kids, they're between the ages of 11 and 13. They're playing video games all the time. And I think of like the stories in Japan where people are going home from work and just playing in the metaverse. So people are spending time there. I actually think it's not a place I want people to spend that much time. I mean, I think it gives opportunity. So to be able to go into a metaverse and experience Africa where I've never been, or to be able to dissect a rat was an example with where I don't have that experience and I'm not in a lab, but I can do so many things that I couldn't do physically. Technology creates opportunities and inclusion and accessibility if you're distributing it and allowing people to use it. And at the same time, it's also keeping us apart in some ways. And I do think, we wouldn't necessarily be able to talk with each other if it weren't for the COVID pandemic allowing us to have more conversations virtually, or stimulating more of these virtual meetings. But I do think that in person is, you can't compare the energy that you get in a room of people together working on something or celebrating something.
I agree. So we've got time for one more question. And this, Janice, is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your incredible journey, from the world of finance to technology to marketing to looking at the SDGs, what would you say are three learnings or three lessons you want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own journey and from our conversation?
I think the first thing that pops in my head is don't keep doing what you've been doing if you want to get different results.
Yeah.
And I think I've continued to shift my approach. And I still am constantly thinking, what do I need to change that will help me get to that next level or achieve something I haven't achieved yet?
Yeah.
So that would be the first one, is really, really assess what you need to change. The second one is think about pacing and how fast or how slow you're going. And I had read a book called Right Away and All at Once, and it said do everything right away and all at once. And I thought it made sense. Like if you're bleeding from 10 different spots, yes, you want to fix that right away and all at once.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're overextending yourself, then you're going to burn out.
Correct.
If you're running too fast, you're going to get injured. So it's really thinking about at what times do you need to pull back and kind of slow down? What times can you run faster and finish that marathon? So that's the second one. And I think a third piece of advice is to really prioritize and think about what's important to you and reassess that regularly. So that way, if family's the most important thing to you and you're spending 80 hours a week or more working, then you may want to reassess. And this goes back to the first one of like, what do you need to change? Because your values and what's important to you may shift over time. And if you're not regularly looking at those, you'll keep doing what you're doing.
Wonderful. And on that note, Janice, and your three wonderful lessons, don't keep doing what you're doing. And basically what you're telling people is, pivot when you have to pivot, and whether it's at work or whether it's in a personal life. The second thing you said was think about pacing, and I'm also hearing it as saying, take bite-sized milestones rather than try and do too much together. And the third one, which you said, which is so important, is to prioritize what is important. Most of us don't. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your journey. Thank you for talking to me about Inkwhy. I love your logic of the name Inkwhy. Thank you for speaking to me about SDGs, and thank you for speaking to me about a lot of your knowledge about branding, which is so critical for every business around the world. Thank you again, and good luck.
Thank you. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.